Okay, this is tape 2 for the test on May 2nd, as well as for the Bagrut, which is the beginning of June. And remember the date offhand. And we are up to sheet number 4. Okay, so here we learned about the Chavot Halavavot. So the Chavot Halavavot comes and says as well, V'agdolashu b'tovot asher yitiv behem aborei la'avodah v'medabrim achreim siu otzam al tchunat hakatam behem gemura v'natan shlema. The greatest gifts which HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us has been the gift of wisdom, right? This is the gift of wisdom. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us this wisdom, and that is how we can be able to best survive this world. I'm going to use the word thrive in this world, is by going ahead and using wisdom. So we see the Chavot Halavavot agrees with Rasajagan, is that we need to use our wisdom, our Chachma, in order to come to an understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just pure emunat mima is not going to do it, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to need more of an intellectual understanding. And he proves it in some variety of ways. The first thing he goes ahead and says, listen, we can divide all mitzvot in the Torah into 2 subcategories. One called chovata evarim, and these are obligations that I have to do. I have to do some sort of physical action. I have to put on tefillin. I have to eat shofar. I have to eat matzah. I have to eat maror. I have to light Chanukah again. These are the things that I have to do, which are chovah, which are obligatory, and my evarim, my limbs. I'm doing something. And then he said there's another category of mitzvot that we have, which are chovat halavavot. Chovat halavavot means the obligations of the heart, the way that I'm supposed to be thinking, the way that I'm supposed to be perceiving the world, right? So you have v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, v'ahavta Hashem b'elokecha. These are all things that the way that I have to feel, and not necessarily does it involve all the time doing something, but rather it's a state of mind, right? Now, if we look at those 2 categories and further take the category of chovat ivarim, of that which I have to do, we could divide it into 2 subcategories. One called mitzvot sichliot, things that I do that I really, really get. I really, really understand. I understand that I have to go ahead and hear Megillat Esther. That's a very important story. I have to hear Shabbat Zachar, things that are very, very obvious to us. Perhaps kashrut, I understand. Things that are obvious to us that are sickly, that are totally make sense. I get it. But there could also be chovata ivarim, which are mitzvot shmayot. Shmayot from the word l'shmoa, shamoa. That I'm just supposed to there just for discipline. Again, if you have things which are chukim, which I don't readily understand at all, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, if you're tzamei and you want to go to the Beit HaMikdash, you got to go through the process of paraduma. I don't get it. I don't really understand it. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells me to do it. I'm going to do it. I don't necessarily understand everything in this whole wide world. It doesn't mean that I don't do something just because I don't understand something. The doctor tells me to take such a medicine. I don't know how it works. I don't get how that little pill knows to go to my big toe to take away the pain, but he says that it will. My toe hurts. I take the medicine, and I hope that it works. So you have this mitzvah shema'iyot, which is totally possible in chovat evarim. I'm told to do something. I do it out of a matter of discipline. Not necessarily do I have to understand it, or not always is there an explanation for it. It's possible. We said in the army, you'll be the soon. The Mefaked is going to say, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. I don't understand why. I have to listen to him because the whole idea in the army is to develop discipline. Whatever the Mefaked says, I'm going to do. However, when it comes to chavot halavavot, the way that I'm supposed to think, the way that I'm supposed to feel, they are very much. It has to be sichli. It has to be rational. It has to be something I understand. I can't be told to understand or think something that I have absolutely no idea why it is. I'm supposed to think this way. That doesn't work. To do something, yes, I can do it. I don't understand it, but I'm going to do it. But in order to think, there has to be a buy-in on my part. I have to be able to understand. So therefore, he proves that thinking and wisdom and understanding are an inherent part of the mitzvot. So the example of Chovat Levavot. You said before, Misala say would be V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, Avat Hashem. I'm supposed to love God. Besad Lota say could be Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha. I'm not supposed to hate another human being. It's a state of mind. And I have to be able, in order to have that state of mind, I have to understand Lo tachmod. I'm not allowed to covet something that somebody else has. That's the state of mind. But in order to reach that state of mind, I have to go ahead and I have to understand why I'm being asked to think in that particular way. And so that's how he proves that seichel and understanding and intellectual understanding is an essential part of our mitzvot. So he gives proofs. Adam murkab miguf u'minefesh. Seichel mechayesh yutzuviyim laguf v'tzuviyim laseichel. Since the person is made up of guf of physicality, and minefesh of soul, therefore it's very, very logical that some mitzvot are going to be for the guf, and some are going to be for the seichel. Some are going to be for the soul, going to be for wisdom, and that wisdom is going to be an essential component of understanding and of observing mitzvot. Says, and then he says, evarim, and even tefillin and those mitzvot that are the limbs, which are action mitzvot, I really can't really do them if I'm not totally bought in on it. I'm just going through the motions. It's feeling I don't have an idea at all why I'm doing this. I'm doing it, but it's not the same as us. Somebody that really has spent time understanding the Mitzvah Tefillin, trying to get it and everything else, knows what's in the Tefillin, knows why I'm doing it. Obviously, the Kiyum Mitzvah is going to be much richer. So, loving God is a mitzvah, being in awe of God. Or mitzvot al. And now, if we go ahead, there's a pasuk that we say 3 times a day at the end of the first paragraph of Elena. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us seichel, gave us wisdom. It's just so obvious to him that we have to use that wisdom in order to properly serve Hashem. And the pasuk says, "V'yadat hayom," and you should know today, "V'ashevota alavavecha," and you should have it like sit on your heart. Ki Hashem hu Elokim b'shamayim mim'al, that God is the master of the world and the heavens above, ve'al ha'aretz mitachat, and in the land below, ain't od, there's no one else. So the idea is, v'yadat hayom, I have to know this. This is something that I have to know, I have to understand. V'ashevota el levavecha, it's understood by my heart. So it says you have to understand these things, you have to spend time in order to understand it. And he gives an allegory in terms of why it's important to have this component in mitzvot. So a servant was tasked with collecting taxes. He didn't really go ahead and really didn't do his job very well, but he came through with the money. At the end of the day, he comes through with the money, delivers the money to the king, and the king finds out. It says finds out, should be so finds out. Let me just go ahead and check that right now. When the king finds out that he was lazy about it, the king is not happy, even though the king has his money. So too, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a job. He gave us a job to go ahead and to just trying to put this in here. Wait, is it? There we go. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a job to go ahead and to do mitzvot, and just to do them without any feeling, and just to do them, just to go through the motions. Got done. It's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do it properly. That means to have an understanding of it. Avodat Hashem is like a silver coin. If you just leave it there, it's going to come all tarnished, all rusty, and everything else. And emunah, when you have real faith and real understanding in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then it shines. Then it shines like a new coin. Okay, that is sheet number 4. Now we're going to go to sheet number 5. This is so exciting. Here we go. Emunah v'gula 5. Here we go. So Rav Kook. Again came on Aliyah in 1904. Rav Kook learned in the Harvard of yeshivot in Europe, the Volozhin yeshiva. He was considered to be a tremendous Talmid Chacham, a very creative, very, very creative thinker. And he takes on the leadership of Tel Aviv Yafo in 1904. Later on, he is appointed by the British as the first chief rabbi of Palestine. Rav Kook dies, I believe, in 1933, so well before the Kamatz Medina. But Rav Kook had to deal with an interesting challenge, and that was that many of the settlers that came to Eretz Yisrael at the end of the 1800s, and especially beginning of the 1900s, were not interested at all in religion. The people who had come earlier on in the beginning of the 1800s, what was called the Yishuv HaYashan, the older settlers, they were very, very much Talmidei Chachamim, who spent their time just totally engrossed in Torah and nothing else. They were supportive of what was called the Chalukah, which was a distribution of funds from wealthy Jews in Europe. But the Jews that came at the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, especially the large group that came from Russia, were not interested in doing what they had done in the old country. They were interested in what was called now a new Jew, Yudea Chadash. There's going to be hardworking, communist or communal, but not religiously observant at all, and in many cases, even anti-observant. Now, the people in Yeshua, most religious people, were very upset with them. Who needs this here? That's not what it's all about. Rav Kook saw things a little bit differently. They said, listen, we have to go and we have to engage these people. It starts off, in our generation, we really, really have to learn and teach this idea of faith in God. Just to tell people, okay, just believe, and without any sort of understanding, and it's all based upon fear, because if you do the wrong thing, God is going to punish you. This is not going to work with these people that come here. These people that come here are coming now, are coming in a different generation. They have much better secular education. And this whole idea that we're just going to go ahead and try to scare them into doing mitzvot is not going to go ahead and not going to do the trick at all. So, number two, this generation has gone to much greater heights than previous generations in their secular education and their knowledge of the world and their exposure in the world. And therefore, they require deeper explanations for their faith in God. It says, Amnan, even though Bnei Ador Olo Musari, even though that the new settlers have not really attained a very high level of righteousness and musar, morality, but they are more moral people. In other words, they may not be keeping mitzvot, but they have what we call today a moral compass. They have a feeling of right and wrong and just and injustice. And so therefore, they're not going to have the old explanations based on fear, are not going to sing to them. And they need explanations which are much more deeper, which is more fit for their high level and for their sfeikot, their doubts that they have. And because it's not just going to be good enough just to scare them, just to say, well, your grandfather did it, so do it. They're going to have to understand it a lot more. Rav Kook understood this, and this already for his time was a chidush. Says Bavar, says in the past, Ayu ma'atim gedoli ruach b'chol dovador. Says you're right. In the old days, you had gedoli ador. Yeah, we romanticize about 1700s, 1800s, rattle off rabbis' names. But the average person, the average Jewish person, really didn't know that very much. You had great rabbanim, you had the elite, but the average Jew did not know very much. But in our generations, we're not the great same leaders of the Jewish people. But the average Jew is much more educated than they ever were. This generation is not ready just to go ahead and to tshuva just out of a sense of fear and awe of God. but they're very, very ready to go ahead and become Baalei Tshuva from love. But they have to understand, in order to love, they have to understand. And they have to be mitchaber, they have to attach themselves to Torah and mitzvot. It says, if we're not going to really, really learn about faith according to what this generation needs, we're not going to be able to answer their questions. So Rav Kook says that right now in his generation, I think it's even more so in our generation, where people very educated secularly, we have to be equally educated Jewishly. Excuse me, and in our munah as well. Okay, now we're going to the next sheet. Let's see where it is. This is sheet number 6. Okay, last sheet for this tape. So here we learned about Rav Yosef Albo. Rav Yosef Albo was of the opinion that you do not necessarily need to understand your emunah in order to be a ma'amin. It's not that you need to understand is the wrong word. You don't need to prove it. Sometimes people say, on a proof of God. There's no proof of God. You have to believe in God. But it doesn't mean just because you're believing that it's any less invigorating than proving it. And he explains as follows. When I believe in something, it means it's etched in my soul. To the extent that I will never contradict it. I know it to be so. Even if I can't prove it. There's certain things that I know to be so, even if I cannot prove it. I may love somebody deeply, 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 and be willing to do anything for that person, even though I can't prove it why I love that person. I can't prove it scientifically. Doesn't mean my love is any less than anything else than 2 + 2 = 4, which I can prove. But that love is just as strong. It says, nefesh rishonot shemachshavto shel adam gover behem, or ba'adam mitzad v'lo there's certain things that just are that I don't readily understand about myself and understand about the world, but I know that to be true. It doesn't mean that it isn't true just because I don't understand it or just because I cannot prove it. So it's extremely, extremely important, according to Rav Albo, that the level of emunah is that it's something that cannot be contradicted, that I'm so sure about it that it cannot be contradicted no matter what happens, and no proof is needed. It's not that I need to prove it. It's that sometimes I can know something to be true even if I cannot go ahead and even if I cannot prove it. The first Lubavitcher Rebbe, I understand one by page, it's not scrolling down. Here we go. Okay. A little bit stubborn here. So he asks the following question. It says in the Torah, actually, this is Gemara's question. Now the children of Israel, it's God ask. God asks you, come on. Just to fear him, to follow his ways, to love him, and to worship God with all your heart and all your souls. The way the pasuk is phrased, it sounds like Moshe is saying, "Come on, guys, come. This is easy. This is easy stuff. What does God ask from you? These things. Come on. What's so hard?" And the Gemara already asked the question, and I'm going over here, these 4 words, Atu Yira Milta Zatratzi. Yirat Hashem is such a small thing. Moshe says, to fear God. That's a very hard thing. The Gemara answers, yes, the Gabe Moshe Milta Zatratzi. As far as Moshe was concerned, it was an easy thing. Moshe stood on Har Sinai and had private conversations. Banu Sha'olam. Yirat Hashem was a very, very, very easy thing. So the question is, we don't understand, but the Baba Sharbi asks, we don't understand this answer. What does that mean? That isn't God talking to the Jewish people? This is what God is speaking to the people. So if God is speaking to the people, he can't say it's such an easy thing. Maybe for Moshe it was an easy thing. But for the average Yankel and Klal Yisrael, it wasn't such an easy thing. Why did Moshe use that lashon, that phraseology? So he explains, "Ela enyanu ki kol nefesh v'nefesh beit Yisrael yesh ba michnat Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom." We see from here that every Jew has the capacity to love God and to fear God the same way Moshe Rabbeinu did. In other words, we all have that within us. It's not Moshe Rabbeinu was not asking something which was beyond us. We just have to uncover it. It's there. So we all have a piece of Moshe Rabbeinu in us, and therefore, the same way it was easy for Moshe, it could be easy for us also once we uncover that piece of Moshe Rabbeinu within us. The Baba Rabbi now says something else very, very important regarding emunah. It says ha'ikar hu hargel. The way to get to emunah is to develop a routine for yourselves. Right? Hargel means a routine. Largil da'ato machshavot zamid. To get into that routine, that when you see something and think about something, that should be part of my heart and brain all the time. And anything that I see outside, the sky and the earth and everything, all the creations within it, all of it is the outerwear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, when I look up at the sky, I need to see, oh, God created the sky. Look at the clouds, God created the clouds. I look at the trees, God created the trees. I look at the grass, I look at the flowers, I look at human beings, not just to see, oh, there goes Tzvi down the road. There goes Tzvi, who is the creation of God. Or anytime I look at every flower and every fruit that I realize it's creation of God, it's just, again, if somebody would ask me, how did this orange get here? I said it was created by God. Yeah, but I usually don't think about it. He says, think about it. Get into that mode of thinking about it. And if you think about it all the time, and every orange that you pass, or every avocado that you pass, or every time you put food into your mouth, you realize this comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's how you develop an emunah. And he says that's part of the word emunah, because the word emunah is to imun. Imunim means to train. A ma'amen is a coach. You have to train yourself to think that way. It's not brainwashing, because I think all of us will agree that the sun was created by God. It's just going to pop into the earth and whatever, exactly at a certain angle, at a certain level, a certain heat, and everything else. It's God created. But when we look up at the sun on a sunny day, we say, oh, it's a sunny day outside. We don't realize that it's a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And if we would get into that hergel, that is how we attain emunah. Thank you very much. To be continued.